The South versus the North. So I wrote about part of this in my memoir, Plenty of Guppies and Other Dating Misadventures. So I'm going to bring that up in a few minutes. But I realized something today. I am not a Southern woman. Now that's very ironic because I was born in Baton Rouge and I was raised between Baton Rouge and Houston. So I spent my entire life in the South between Baton Rouge and Houston. And I can cook, Southern dishes. I don't have a Southern accent. And that's kind of symbolic, I realize. And I was married to two men from Houston, had two other relationships with men from Houston, one before my marriage and one after my first divorce. And then I've had four other relationships since my divorce. All four of those have been with men that are Northerners. And it was very different because the Southern men that I met, and I'm just speaking about the ones that I've met in all of my life, not just the ones I was involved with and married to, but the ones that I've met online, the ones that I've met in person, the ones that I've had conversations with and gone on a few dates with, they have a much more traditional and patriarchal view of women in relationships. And this is just my personal experience. And the men from up north that I have met, or out west or out east, have a much more egalitarian view of relationships. So the four men that I got involved with and was committed to after my divorce were all very much supportive of my goals, my dreams, my aspirations, my intellect. They loved my intellect. They loved my intensity, the debates that we would have. It was literally an aphrodisiac to them. And my ambition was something that inspired them, something that challenged them in a way that they wanted to do more for themselves. And so I also noticed that my friends, I have a friend in Cali, a male friend, one in Indianapolis. My best friend lived in New York, and we would talk almost every day. The one in Cali and the one in New York at different times, we would talk almost every day about everything under the sun, what was going on in our lives, who we were dating, everything, just everything, everything, everything. And once again, very egalitarian. They didn't see me as a woman per se. They saw me as a human being first and a woman second. And the men that are in the South don't seem to have that human being first mentality. They seem to see me as an object or a tool or a means to an end, and then a woman second. And they have a lot of ideas about what I should and shouldn't do, what I should and shouldn't feel comfortable doing. I just noticed that whenever I have been called a man hater, a feminist, a man basher, it has always been from a Southern man, always. And whenever I've had a guy compliment me on my logic, on me making a good point, on giving them food for thought, on how I broke something down that they hadn't thought of before, it's always been a Northern man or someone from the East or the West. I wrote about this in my memoir, and I basically said, I was asking my friends up north and in the East and the West what they thought about Southern men, because all of them had come down here and lived here for a little bit of time and then gone back up north, and their responses were, the guys are weird. They're not masculine. They are in competition with women. They say things that I've never heard a man say up north before, and so I was like, it's not just me. It's not just me. But it's funny that as a Southern woman, I have a Northern mentality. And I think, I'm almost absolutely sure that it's because of my father. My father was raised in Detroit. He came and lived in California for a few years. He didn't come to the South until he went to college. So he was 18 when he came to the South, but he never lost his, what people call his Cali accent. And they say that I picked that up, that I have a California accent. Now, since I've never lived in California, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard people say about him and about me. And I realized that the way that he raised me to debate, to speak my mind, to take a stand, to argue my points, to research, to not cry. One of my boyfriends, in fact, my last boyfriend, said, your dad raised you like a boy. Because when I would talk about things that my dad would say or things that my dad would do, he would be like, that's what you would do with a boy. So very interesting, whatever. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it just occurred to me today that as much as I was raised here, I'm not a Southern woman. And I always thought that I was, because I took it for granted that I was. But I also realize now that this may be one of the problems that I've had. Because when guys hear that I was raised in Baton Rouge and in Houston, they may have a certain expectation of my mindset or my behavior or my attitudes or my programming conditioning about womanhood, manhood, those kind of things. And I probably don't fit their expectation because I was raised, I'm very much my father's daughter, very, very much. He